Welcome, lost souls. You've just stepped into Lilith Alastor Official, a place where horror meets passion, and every heartbeat might be your last. If you love eerie tales, dark romance, and spine-tingling short stories that blur the line between the living and the damned, you're in the right place. I publish a new story every week, each one a descent into something a little more unsettling, and maybe a little more beautiful. So if that sounds like your kind of night, leave a like, whisper your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to join the growing coven that gathers here every week. And for those who want to go deeper into the darkness, to support my work and unlock extra perks including full ebooks and audiobook versions, you can join my Patreon. The links are in my bio. Thanks so much. Now dim the lights, take a deep breath, and let the story begin. Something is changing inside Aria, and it's about to change everything. One moment, she's a typical high school student. The next, she's discovering abilities that shatter everything she knows about herself. Hypersensitive senses, impossible reflexes, a predatory hunger that threatens to consume her humanity. When genetic secrets and primal instincts collide, Aria becomes a weapon without an owner, transformed but not yet understood. Her body is evolving, her control is fragmenting, and every human connection becomes a potential threat. Prom night will never be the same. A heart-stopping, supernatural transformation that asks, what happens when you become something beyond human and there's no turning back? Prepare for a visceral, psychological journey into metamorphosis that will leave you breathless and questioning the thin line between survival and monstrosity. Emerging, changing, hunting. Chapter 1. The fluorescent lights of Oakwood High flickered with a rhythm only Aria seemed to notice. Shadows pooled at the edges of the hallway, stretching and contracting like living things. She stood motionless, a pale figure amid the chaotic surge of teenage bodies, her green eyes tracking movements most would miss. Backpacks bumped, sneakers squeaked, and laughter erupted in staccato bursts. But to Aria, each sound felt like a hammer strike against her heightened senses. She inhaled deeply, catching fragments of conversations, perfumes, sweat, a sensory map more complex than anyone could understand. In AP Biology, Mr. Reyes droned about genetic inheritance. His voice seemed to vibrate through Aria's bones. When he mentioned adoption and genetic variability, her fingers clenched involuntarily around a delicate glass slide. A hairline crack appeared, then spread like lightning, shattering the slide into a constellation of fragments. Miss Blackenwood? Mr. Reyes's voice cut through her fog of awareness. Sorry, she muttered, brushing glass shards aside. Her classmates stared, some with curiosity, others with mild annoyance. Later that afternoon, hunched over her laptop, Aria scrolled through Romanian folklore websites. Most entries seemed mundane, but one obscure text about midnight creatures made her pulse quicken. Something about the description felt viscerally familiar, not just read, but remembered. Her bedroom was a sanctuary of carefully curated normalcy. Soft gray walls, vintage photography prints, neatly organized desk. Yet something felt different today. As twilight crept through her window, Aria noticed her shadow. No, not her shadow. The silhouette seemed to lag, to breathe independently, a fraction of a second behind her movements. She blinked. The shadow realigned. Downstairs, her adoptive parents moved with comfortable domesticity. Mart's lawyer voice discussed a case, Helena's medical scrubs rustling as she prepared dinner. Their love was a constant, a warm blanket Aria wrapped herself in, even as she felt increasingly disconnected. "Aria, dinner's ready," Helena called. At the dinner table, an inexplicable warmth radiated from her core. Not hunger, something deeper, primal. She forced a smile, cutting her steak with mechanical precision. "How was school?" Mark asked, his attorney's eyes scanning her face. "Fine," she responded, the word feeling like a costume she wore. Later, standing by her bedroom window, Aria watched suburban twilight dissolve into darkness. Street lamps flickered on, casting amber pools across manicured lawns. Something was changing within her, a metamorphosis both terrifying and inevitable. Her reflection in the glass seemed to shimmer, edges blurring. Not quite human, not yet something else. Just Aria, suspended between worlds, waiting. The night pressed closer, breathing with her. Chapter 2. The formaldehyde burned Aria's nostrils with an intensity that made her eyes water. Each breath felt like inhaling razor blades, every sensation amplified beyond human tolerance. Her trembling fingers hovered above the pale, preserved frog, the scalpel catching the harsh fluorescent light. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. The microscopic world erupted into painful clarity. Dust became intricate crystal structures dancing in slow motion. Her lab partner's skin revealed a topography of microscopic landscapes, tiny capillaries pulsing with hidden rhythms, each pore a universe of intricate detail. A drop of dissection fluid splashed onto her hand. The metallic contact sent an electric tremor through her body. Aria gripped the lab table's edge, her knuckles bone white, struggling to maintain composure. Across the classroom, Jake watched her. His eyes flickered with growing concern, tracking her increasingly unnatural stillness. Then she smelled it. Blood. A paper cut on a nearby student's finger became the most intoxicating thing in existence. The copper-sweet scent hit her like a physical wave. Her nostrils flared, pupils dilated. A primal hunger, something beyond teenage metabolism, began to build inside her. "Aria?" Mr. Peterson's voice cut through her sensory overload. "Are you feeling all right?" She couldn't answer. Her hearing had transformed the teacher's words into a complex symphony, each syllable a resonant note, his heartbeat a thunderous percussion underlying everything. A warm trickle traced her upper lip. Nosebleed. Crimson droplets splashed onto her pristine white lab coat, a stark contrast that seemed to pulse with its own terrible significance. "Ms. Blackenwood?" The biology teacher's concern sharpened. Jake took a step forward, then hesitated. Something in Aria's posture, the unnatural stillness, the way her muscles seemed coiled like a predator, stopped him. The classroom sounds became unbearable. Pencil scratches sounded like sandpaper against metal. Whispered conversations became thunderous debates. Heartbeats, so many heartbeats, created a rhythmic torture that threatened to overwhelm her. Aria closed her eyes, trying to control the sensory explosion. When she reopened them, everything looked different. Sharper. More alive, and infinitely more vulnerable. The bell rang. A sound that should have been mundane became an assault of metallic vibrations. As her classmates shuffled out, Aria remained frozen. Something fundamental had changed. She was no longer just Aria Blackenwood, suburban high school senior. Something else was emerging. Something else was emerging. Something dangerous. Jake lingered in the doorway, watching her. His expression oscillated between concern and a growing instinctive fear. For the first time, she saw herself through another's eyes, a predator barely contained within human skin. Her transformation had begun. Chapter 3. The gymnasium echoed with squeaking sneakers and bouncing basketballs, but Aria felt disconnected from the typical high school noise. Something electric hummed beneath her skin, a restlessness that made every muscle twitch with unnatural potential. Her body felt like a compressed spring, wound tight and ready to explode into motion. During warm-ups, Aria stretched impossibly far. Her legs extended beyond what should have been physically comfortable, her muscles moving with a grace that felt both foreign and exhilarating. Coach Ramirez glanced at her, a flicker of confusion crossing his weathered face. "Blackenwood," he called, "you're looking different today. Different." The word hung in the air like a challenge. Dodgeball began, and everything changed. The first ball sailed toward her, a bright red sphere moving fast enough to bruise. But fast became relative. Aria saw its trajectory with clarity. Her perception stretched between milliseconds. She shifted, almost floating, the ball passing harmlessly beside her. One teammate, Marcus Reynolds, narrowed his eyes. He'd always resented how easily athletic skills came to others. Grabbing a ball, he wound up with deliberate malice, putting every ounce of his frustration into the throw. Time seemed to slow. The ball rocketed toward Aria's face, a projectile designed to humiliate. But her hand moved before conscious thought, catching the ball with impossible precision. No blur, no visible motion, just sudden stillness. The gymnasium went silent. 30 pairs of eyes locked onto Aria. Coach Ramirez's mouth hung open. Marcus took a step backward, his confident smirk dissolving into something closer to fear. Aria's heart raced. Panic bubbled underneath her skin, a rising tide of confusion and terror. She could hear impossibly the individual heartbeats around her, each pulse a distinct rhythm, a separate song of fear and fascination. When the emotional surge hit, she didn't realize her hand was still gripping the nearby metal locker handle. Her fingers, seemingly of their own volition, began to compress the solid metal. A sharp, metallic groan cut through the silence. The handle twisted like soft clay, her grip leaving indentations. Smooth metal buckled and warped between her fingers as though it were nothing more substantial than wet paper. Students closest to her recoiled, creating an instant circle of empty space. Whispers erupted, sharp, jagged sounds that felt like physical things. "What the hell? Did you see? That's not normal." Aria stared at her hand. Pale fingers, smooth skin, impossibly strong, completely alien. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. Sweat beaded along her forehead. The room's temperature seemed to fluctuate. Sounds became distorted, overwhelming. "Miss Blackenwood?" Coach Ramirez's voice cut through her rising panic. "Are you okay?" No, she was not okay. Nothing was okay. Something fundamental was changing, and Aria had no idea how to stop it. The locker handle hung twisted and broken, a testament to her impossible strength, a manifestation of the transformation consuming her from the inside out. Chapter 4. The periodic table on the chemistry classroom wall blurred into a kaleidoscope of atomic symbols as Aria's enhanced hearing bombarded her with a hurricane of whispers. To her left, Melissa was secretly texting her boyfriend. 3 rows back, Tyler was nervously planning to ask Sarah to prom. Each conversation layered over another, a suffocating audio tapestry that made her skull throb. Her fingers curled around the lab table's edge. Ceramic cracked beneath her grip, tiny fractures spreading like spiderwebs. She forced her hand open, leaving behind a spiderweb of microscopic damage. "Miss Blackenwood?" Mr. Reese's voice cut through the auditory chaos. "Are you paying attention?" Aria blinked, willing her senses to recalibrate. "Yes, sorry." But nothing felt normal anymore. During lunch, she watched her classmates with predatory precision. A twitch of Sarah's left eyebrow revealed her underlying anxiety. Marcus's slight nostril flare betrayed his attraction to the girl 2 tables away. Emotions leaked from their faces like invisible ink, readable only to her. The cafeteria's ambient sounds, forks scraping plates, hushed conversations, sneaker soles squeaking on linoleum, became a thunderous orchestra. Aria pressed her palms against her ears, desperate for silence. Blood. Everywhere she smelled blood. Each student carried a unique scent, copper salt, something primal that made her mouth water. In the hallway, she pressed herself against cold metal lockers, breathing carefully. One wrong move, one deep inhale, and something terrible might happen. By afternoon, an animalistic hunger consumed her. 3 protein shakes, an entire large pizza, and she still felt ravenous. Her stomach twisted, demanding something more fundamental, more visceral. Walking home, her vision transformed. Dust became distinct entities. A ladybug crawling on a distant oak leaf was suddenly as clear as if viewed through a microscope. Every movement, every minute detail, hyper-illuminated. In her bedroom mirror, she barely recognized herself. Her skin seemed translucent, canine teeth subtly elongated. Her eyes, once a normal green, now possessed an unnatural luminescence that scared her. "What am I becoming?" she whispered. No answer came. Just the growing awareness of something inside of her, something that was rapidly consuming her humanity. Night fell. Aria trembled, no longer certain where the human ended and the predator began. Chapter 5. The apartment's shadows seemed to breathe with anticipation. Moonlight spilled through half-drawn curtains, casting silver fragments across Jake's hardwood floor. Aria's footsteps were silent, too silent, her body coiled with an unnatural tension that vibrated just beneath her skin. Jake's fingers intertwined with hers, warm and unsuspecting, the simple act sending tiny pulses of electricity racing up her arm. His grip was firm but gentle, and in it lay a trust that made her chest ache. Her senses were sharpened to an almost unbearable clarity. She could feel the faint tremor in his hand, hear each measured beat of his heart thrumming in counterpoint to her own, a rhythm both beautiful and perilous. The whisper of his pulse was music, a melody she feared she might never forget. His scent enveloped her salt and skin, and something uniquely his, an intoxicating mixture that teased her control. It coiled in her lungs, lighting up something primal. Every breath drew her closer to a line she dared not cross. "You're quiet tonight," Jake murmured, his voice low, velveted with affection. He drew her in until there was no space left to fill, until his warmth became the air she breathed. His chest pressed to hers, steady and unguarded. When his breath touched her neck, it set fire to every nerve beneath her skin. A tremor worked its way through her body, dissolving reason into want. Aria's pupils widened, drinking in every detail of him until nothing else existed. Her sharp canines pressed against her lower lip, her instincts unfurling like a predator in the dark, alert, calculating, aching to strike. But beneath that hunger lay something gentler, a reverence she could neither name nor deny. The danger of it was as alluring as it was terrifying. Then his mouth found hers. Soft at first, exploratory, a question asked in the language of lips and breath. The kiss deepened, turning the night molten, and the space between them ceased to exist. Her hands clutched his shoulders, feeling the subtle shift of muscle beneath skin, the heat of him, the rush of his blood like a tide against her senses. Her breath caught, held captive by the moment. Milliseconds expanded into an eternity, each beat of his heart echoing through her in waves. Every flicker of his touch, every brush of his lips, every shared exhale felt holy. So fragile she was afraid to move, yet so consuming she could never pull away. And in that stillness the world fell away entirely, leaving only Jake, only her, and the perilous beauty of being so close she could taste him in more ways than one. Then the moment fractured. Her hunting instinct surged like a dark wave. Jake's exposed neck called to something animalistic, something that wanted to tear and consume. Aria's teeth elongated almost imperceptibly, a microscopic betrayal of her true nature. With violent suddenness, she wrenched herself away. Her hands trembled, muscles coiled like steel springs ready to snap. Wild-eyed, she stared at Jake, part terror, part self-loathing. "Don't," she whispered, a razor's edge of warning in her voice. Confusion flickered across Jake's face. "Aria? What's wrong?" She took a deliberate step backward, creating distance, a physical barrier against the monster threatening to emerge. Her voice when she spoke was surgical, precise. "I can't see you anymore." Her words cut deep, like a razor. Each word was a calculated strike, designed to wound, to push him away. Survival demanded emotional distance. Love was a luxury she couldn't afford. Jake reached out, bewilderment transforming into hurt. "I don't understand." When he tried to approach, she moved with supernatural speed, a blur that left him momentarily stunned. Her retreat was both physical and emotional, constructing impenetrable walls around her fractured heart. After Jake's confused protests faded, after the apartment door clicked shut with terrifying finality, Aria collapsed against the hallway wall. Tremors ran through her body, grief, relief, terror intermingling in a toxic cocktail of emotion. Alone. Always alone. Her fingers traced the space where Jake's pulse had beaten just moments before. The memory of his proximity burned like a phantom wound, a reminder that intimacy for her would always be a dangerous dance between desire and destruction. The night stretched before her, vast and empty, another testament to the monstrous chasm between her two worlds. Chapter 6. Several weeks later, Aria and Jake decided they were better off as friends. The decision was mutual, at least on the surface, and they even agreed to attend the prom together. To anyone watching, it might have seemed like a sweet, uncomplicated pact, two close friends sharing a night to remember. But beneath Aria's composed smile, a quiet storm churned. Her heart ached with a loneliness that no amount of laughter or polite conversation could disguise. Every time she imagined his hand in hers, it was with the bittersweet ache of knowing it wouldn't be the way she wanted. She wanted him, not just as a date for a single evening, but as the person who would look at her like she was his entire world. She wanted everything, the spark, the unspoken bond, the promise of something deeper. And yet she also knew she couldn't have any of it. She had drawn invisible lines she couldn't cross, and she, for all her hopeful yearning, respected them. So she told herself it was enough to stand beside him under the lights of the gymnasium, to dance once or twice, to laugh at old inside jokes. But as the weeks crept toward prom night, she found herself wondering if pretending would hurt more than staying home, alone. The mirror reflected a stranger. Aria's fingers trembled as she traced the faint iridescent line emerging along her cheekbone, a delicate shimmer that caught the light like mother of pearl. Her makeup compact trembled in her grip, foundation barely concealing the increasingly alien landscape of her skin. "Just breathe," she whispered to herself, though breathing had become something entirely different in recent weeks. The midnight blue prom dress fought against her changing body. Where it once hung perfectly, now it pulled and twisted across shoulders that seemed subtly broader, spine slightly elongated. Aria twisted, watching the fabric ripple with an unnatural fluidity that made her skin crawl. Downstairs, her parents' excited chatter drifted up. Mark's camera clicked repeatedly, Helena's laugh punctuating each shot. Normal! They wanted normal so badly. The pre-prom photo session became an elaborate dance of concealment. Aria angled her body, carefully positioning her arms to hide the translucent patches emerging near her wrists. Her smile was a practiced, mechanical, precise, absolutely controlled. Jake arrived in a crisp black tux, his excitement a palpable warmth that made Aria's heightened senses pulse. In the limousine, she felt her body temperature fluctuate wildly. Opalescent sweat beaded behind her ears, something definitely not human. She dabbed frantically, hoping he wouldn't notice. "You okay?" Jake's hand touched her knee, sending a cascade of sensory information through her body. She could hear his heartbeat, smell the subtle mix of cologne and something deeper. Blood, life, potential. "Perfect," she managed, the word feeling like glass in her mouth. The school gymnasium pulsed with adolescent energy. Silver and blue streamers hung like liquid metal, and Aria's enhanced perception caught every microscopic vibration. The music seemed to exist in multiple layers. She could hear individual instrument tracks, the breath of dancers, the subtle friction of fabric against skin. During their first slow dance, Jake's arms around her tensed slightly. His confusion was a tangible thing. "You're cold," he murmured. Her skin felt like polished glass, smooth and unnaturally perfect. Each movement was a careful negotiation between maintaining human appearance and suppressing her emerging nature. Near the punch bowl, an internal shift sent pain rippling through her body. Her fingers gripped the wooden table's edge, leaving microscopic stress fractures, invisible to human eyes, but a testament to the strength building beneath her skin. The mirrored wall caught her reflection. Something was wrong. The edges blurred, rippled almost imperceptibly. Not quite human. Not quite anything. As the final, slow dance began, Aria knew this was her last moment of carefully constructed normalcy. The transformation was accelerating, and no amount of makeup, careful positioning, or desperate hope could stop what was coming. Her reflection wavered. Half girl, half something else entirely. The music swelled. The night breathed with anticipation. Everything was about to change. Chapter 7. The gymnasium's glittering decorations mocked her now. Aria stood motionless, lavender dress dripping with thick crimson-red pig's blood that steamed under the harsh spotlights. Silence hung for a breath, then cruel laughter erupted. Droplets slid down her trembling cheekbones. Something inside her shifted. Her classmates' laughter died in their throats as Aria's body began to change. Muscles rippled beneath her ruined dress, moving with a liquidity that defied human mechanics. Her spine straightened. Her fingers, no longer fragile, curled into something more predatory. Jake took a step forward. Aria. Jake's body hurled across the gymnasium with impossible force, leaving a spectacular crimson spray against the pale blue wall. Panic erupted. Students stampeded, high heels and dress shoes skidding on the polished floor. But Aria blocked their escape, a low guttural sound emerging from her blood-splattered throat. Her eyes, once green, now completely black, scanned the room with precision. The emergency alarm screamed, its sharp wail blended with human terror, creating a symphony of destruction. Wooden gymnasium doors splintered like matchsticks under her hands. Shredded corsages and torn tuxedo fragments littered the floor like grotesque confetti. Each movement was calculated, predatory. In the shattered gymnasium mirror, her reflection revealed a monster. Blood streamed like war paint across transformed features, part girl, part nightmare. Aria watched herself, fascinated by the monster she was becoming. Distant sirens wailed. Red and blue lights strobed through broken windows. Her parents would be here soon. Mark. Helena. The people who had loved her, protected her, never knowing the darkness brewing inside of her. Something inside Aria. The last fragment of her humanity wanted to feel remorse, to cry, to apologize. But the hunger was stronger. The predator had been unleashed, and she was starving. The gymnasium doors burst open. First responders would find only carnage, only her. Aria smiled. Her teeth, now razor-sharp, gleamed crimson in the emergency lights. Her transformation was complete. Chapter 8. The moonlight carved shadows across Aria's bedroom walls, transforming familiar spaces into something foreign and distant. Her fingers moved with precision, carefully removing each family photograph from its nail. Mark and Helena's smiling faces packed away. Her backpack sat packed and waiting, a silent, painful reminder of departure. The goodbye note emerged from her trembling hand, her handwriting sharp and angular, each letter pressed so hard into the paper that it threatened to tear through. I can't stay. I am not who you thought I was. I'm sorry. She left the note centered on the fridge, a stark white rectangle against the metal surface. Midnight hung heavy and absolute as Aria slipped through the back door. Her movements were fluid, almost spectral. No creaking floorboard, no rustling fabric betrayed her exit. The suburban street stretched before her, a ribbon of asphalt bordered by identical houses with darkened windows. Her breath billowed in the freezing air, ephemeral clouds that dissolved almost instantly. Each exhale felt like a piece of her humanity escaping, dissipating into the cold night. The highway's shoulder became her path. Street lamps cast pools of harsh white light, creating islands of illumination she passed between like a phantom. Her shadow stretched and contracted with each lamp she passed, a living silhouette that seemed to pulse with its own strange rhythm. Memories flickered at the edges of her consciousness. Jake's face. The prom. The blood. The terror she had unleashed. Each memory was a wound, raw and unhealing. She had become something between worlds, neither fully human nor completely supernatural, rejected, alone. The landscape gradually transformed. Manicured lawns gave way to wild grass. Street lamps became sparse, then vanished completely. Only moonlight remained, painting everything in shades of silver and shadow. Her pace was steady, almost meditative. No destination guided her, only the fundamental need to escape. To become something undefined, something that couldn't be hurt again. The fog began to gather, thick and impenetrable. It rolled across the terrain like a living thing, consuming everything in its path. Soft, silent, absolute. Aria's silhouette grew smaller against the vast, indifferent landscape. With each step she became less distinct, her edges blurring into the mist. Then, suddenly, she was gone. Only the empty highway remained, moonlight pooling on its surface like spilled mercury, bearing no trace of her passage. The world continued, indifferent to her departure. Wind rustled through dry grass. Distant animals moved through shadowed landscapes. Nothing acknowledged the profound transformation that had just occurred.